Welcome. Tonight we're going deep into one of history's most genuinely unsettling mysteries. You have to picture this. It's February 1959, way out in the remote, really unforgiving Ural Mountains back in the Soviet Union. 9 experienced hikers, they just vanish into this, icy wilderness. And their final moments, well, they're wrapped up in this terrifying enigma. When their bodies are finally found weeks later, what the investigators uncovered, it wasn't just baffling. It pointed towards something inexplicable, something truly disturbing. So our mission here really is to piece together that chilling timeline. We need to look closely at the perplexing forensic findings and explore the most compelling theories about what we now call the Dyatlov Pass incident. We'll be digging through the official records, what little survivor accounts exist, and, all those strange, baffling details that make this such a chilling story. It really haunts the imagination, doesn't it?
It really does. And I think it's that unique mix of elements that makes this case so captivating. Even now, decades later, I mean, you're talking about a group of skilled, really seasoned trekkers. These weren't amateurs.
Right.
Yet they were found under circumstances so extreme, with injuries so bizarre. They just defy any kind of conventional explanation. It forces you to confront the limits of what we think we know, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So, okay, let's start at the beginning. The expedition itself, January 1959. A team of 10 experienced hikers, 8 men, 2 women, all students and grads from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Their leader was a young guy, 23 years old, Igor Dyatlov, and they had this really ambitious goal, reach the peak of Mount Otorten. They started their journey from a town in Sverdlovsk Oblast up north. That was January 25th, 1959. Everything seemed pretty normal, standard stuff for a group like this.
Yeah, seemed routine. But then just 3 days in, there's this crucial moment, a life-altering decision, really. One of the hikers, Yuri Udin, he starts having severe knee and joint pain, just couldn't continue. So he makes this tough call to turn back. He had absolutely no way of knowing it then, of course.
Oh, could he?
Exactly. But that decision, it made him the sole survivor of the entire expedition, the only one left, well, not to tell the tale exactly, but to live with the mystery of it all.
Wow. So the remaining 9, they push on, and they head straight into these incredibly hostile conditions. We're talking brutal snowstorms, temperatures dropping to like minus 30 degrees Celsius, which is just incredibly cold.
Bone-chilling cold.
And the whiteout conditions meant they lost their bearings. Instead of heading towards Otorten, they accidentally veer west. They end up on the upper slope of this nearby mountain, a place the locals apparently called Dead Mountain.
Kolat Chakal, in the local Mansi language.
Yeah.
And it was on this exposed slope, February 1st, that Dyatlov decides, right, let's make camp here. Now, why there? Some people speculate it was to avoid losing the altitude they'd already gained. Others think maybe it was practice, high-altitude camping practice.
Makes sense.
Whatever the reason, tactically, this lonely, exposed mountainside, it became their final, tragic resting place. That decision sealed their fate.
And Dyatlov, before leaving, he'd promised to send a telegram back to their sports club when they got back. Expected arrival no later than February 12th. So when that date passes, no message.
Well, there wasn't immediate panic. Delays happen, right? Especially on these kinds of trips.
Yeah, pretty common. But then days turn into weeks. And the families, they start getting really worried. They start pushing for a search operation. So by February 20th, the Institute finally sends out the first rescue crews. Just volunteer students and teachers initially. But as things looked more serious, the Army and police forces got involved. Planes, helicopters, searching this vast, remote, snow-covered area. It wasn't easy. And then, February 26th, the search party makes the first discovery. And what they find at that campsite just blows all conventional explanations out of the water. What did they actually see? What was so weird about it?
It's just chaos, pure chaos. A student, Mikhail Sherevin, he finds the tent, but it's half torn down, almost flattened by snow, and completely empty. Chillingly empty. All the groups stuffed their food, their supplies, and crucially, their shoes all left behind. But the strangest detail, the tent itself, it looked like it had been cut open, slashed from the inside.
From the inside.
Yeah. That's not how you calmly leave a tent, is it? That screams panic.
Absolute panic. Okay, so what else did they find around there? Any other signs of?
Well, whatever happened. Footprints. They found footprints leading away from the tent, downhill towards the tree line, which was about a mile away. 8 or 9 distinct sets of prints. And many of them suggested people were, well, barefoot. Or maybe just wearing socks.
Barefoot. In minus 30 degrees.
Exactly. Running through waist-high snow, it points to some kind of immediate, overwhelming threat that forced them out instantly. No time to grab boots, no time for anything. And investigators, They found no signs of anyone else being there. No tracks besides the hikers. And no signs of a fight or foul play within the group at the tent site anyway. It was like something external, something terrifying, just drove them out.
Wow. So the search continues, obviously, and then they start finding the bodies. Tell us about that.
It's grim. The first two bodies were found down by the tree line under this big old pine tree. Both were wearing only their underwear, barefoot. And the tree itself. There were broken branches high up. Looked like somebody tried to climb it. Maybe to see, maybe to escape something.
Or just desperation.
Desperation, yeah. And the remains of a small fire nearby. Like they tried to get warm, but it wasn't enough.
And
Then, between that tree and the camp, they found 3 more bodies. Dyatlov himself, Kolmogorova, and Slobodin. Their positions suggested they were trying to get back. Crawling back towards the tent, maybe?
trying to get back to their gear.
Exactly. And Slobodin, notably, had a fractured skull. Now, the initial report said it was non-fatal, but it immediately complicates things, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Initially, the conclusion for all 5 was death by hypothermia, which makes sense in those conditions. But the fractured skull, even if not immediately fatal, how does that fit with just freezing to death? What caused that?
It just adds another layer of weirdness. And it didn't stop there, did it? The other 4 took longer to find.
Much longer. Over 2 agonizing months, they were finally found on May 4th, buried under like 4 meters of snow in a ravine about 75 meters deeper into the woods from that pine tree.
4 meters of snow. Wow. And what was different about these 4?
Okay, this is where it gets really crucial. The condition of these 4 was starkly different. For one, they were better dressed than the first 5.
Better dressed.
Yeah, there were signs, heartbreaking signs really, that those who died first had maybe given some of their clothes to the others who were still alive. Like a final act of sacrifice.
Oh, man. Yeah. But then the injuries, this is where it gets truly bizarre, right? Horrifying, even.
Absolutely. This is where the story shifts from just tragic freezing to something else entirely, something darker. Nikolai Thibault-Brignol, he had a major skull fracture, much worse than Slobodin's. Alexander Zolotarev was found with crushed ribs, just crushed. And then there's Ludmila Dubinina, multiple broken ribs too. But also, she was missing her tongue, her eyes, part of her lips, some facial tissue, even a piece of her skull bone.
Wait, missing her tongue and eyes? That's incredibly gruesome. Was that just animal?
Or decomposition.
Yeah.
Well, some of the external damage, especially with Dubinina, found face down in running water under the snow, was attributed to, putrefaction, natural decay in a wet environment. But the internal injuries on several of them, they were undeniably profound. The medical examiner famously stated the force needed to cause that kind of damage to sedum. The crushed ribs, the fractured skulls would have been extremely high.
How high?
He compared it to the force of a car crash. Immense pressure. Yet, apart from Dubinina's facial injuries, there were no significant external wounds related to these massive bone fractures.
So, broken from the inside out, almost.
It seemed like it, as if they'd been subjected to this incredible pressure that crushed their insides, but left the outside largely intact. It defied conventional understanding of trauma back then. And now, really.
And wasn't there something else? Something about their skin color?
Yes, that's another strange detail. A person who attended the funerals later recalled that the victim's skin had this weird, deep brown tan, almost orange. Another detail that's never been properly explained. Just adds to the unsettling mystery.
So, okay. Horrific injuries, missing body parts, weird skin color. But the official conclusion was just hypothermia. How did they square that?
Well, they didn't, really. The initial official verdict was hypothermia, despite all this evidence of severe trauma. And the case was officially closed in May 1959. The reason given: the absence of a guilty party, which just begs so many questions.
It leaves everything hanging, doesn't it? I mean, what could possibly drive 9 experienced hikers, basically naked, out into that kind of cold? Why cut your way out?
And what force could crush skulls and ribs like that with almost no external signs, or cause that strange tan? These are the questions that keep this mystery alive, that make it so enduring.
Right. Let's get into some of the main theories people have come up with over the years. What have they tried to pin this on? Okay, theory 1, an avalanche. This was an early favorite.
Yeah, seemed plausible initially.
The idea being they woke up in a panic, maybe snow covered the tent entrance, or they heard a rumble, thought an avalanche was coming. So they cut their way out. They run to the trees for safety, get separated in the dark and cold, and then freeze trying to get back to the tent for their clothes once they realize maybe the danger passed. And the 4 badly injured ones maybe got caught later.
That was the thinking. But if you really look at the evidence, the avalanche theory, it just doesn't hold up.
Why not?
Well, first off, there were just no signs of an avalanche at the site. No debris field, no damage patterns consistent with one. The bodies were covered by shallow snow, not the deep, heavy debris you'd expect. Plus, an avalanche strong enough to cause those crushing injuries, it would have likely swept the bodies much further, damaged the tree line significantly. That didn't happen.
And Dyatlov himself.
Exactly. Dyatlov was an experienced skier. He knew mountains. He's highly unlikely to have pitched a tent right in a known avalanche path. And besides, hundreds of expeditions have been there since, and none reported avalanche conditions on that particular slope. It just doesn't fit the physical evidence.
Okay, so scratch the avalanche. What about something weirder? Like Theory 2, infrasound. What's that about?
This one's fascinating. The theory is that the wind whipping over the specific topography of the mountain could have created something called a Kármán vortex street, which can, under the right conditions, generate infrasound.
Infrasound, like sound we can't hear.
Precisely. Very low frequency sound. And the weird thing about infrasound is even though you can't consciously hear it, at certain frequencies it can have physical effects. It can cause intense discomfort, anxiety, irrational fear, even full-blown panic attacks.
Seriously, it's just from sound.
Yeah. So the idea here is that this naturally occurring infrasound drove the hikers mad with panic inside the tent. This deep, primal fear forces them to cut their way out and flee down the slope anywhere to get away from it. Once they were further down out of the direct path of the infrasound, they might have calmed down a bit. But now they're lost in the dark, freezing, disoriented, shoeless, can't find their way back.
And the injuries.
The theory suggests that traumatic injuries happen later, maybe stumbling in the darkness, falling off the edge of that ravine onto the rocks below. It's a chilling idea, and an invisible force driving them to their doom.
That is genuinely creepy, almost supernatural feeling. But then there's the human element, right? What about Theory 3, military testing?
Yes, this one always comes up.
Yeah.
And it has some compelling points. The theory alleges that the hikers weren't woken by nature, but by loud explosions from secret Soviet military tests in the area. Maybe parachute mines.
Parachute mines.
Yeah, these are weapons designed to detonate in the air before hitting the ground. And the blast pattern from that kind of aerial detonation, it can cause severe internal injuries with minimal external trauma. Sounds familiar, right?
Very familiar. Like the hiker's injury.
Exactly. And there are records of military tests happening in that general region around that time. This theory also lines up with those other reports, the other hiking group, 30-odd miles south.
The ones who saw the lights.
Yeah, strange, glowing orange spheres in the sky to the north, the same night the Dyatlov group likely died, often associated with missile tests or other things.
And didn't they find something on the clothes?
Yes, radioactivity. Traces of radiation were found on some of the victims' clothing, which would definitely be a byproduct of certain military exercises or weapons tests.
That feels significant.
It does. And proponents of this theory also point to the initial cover-up, the fact that Soviet authorities quickly classified the files, shut down the investigation. It suggests they knew something or were hiding something related to military activity.
Even though some files were eventually released later on.
Yeah, many were released in the late 80s during Glasnost. But the early secrecy definitely fuels that suspicion.
And it seems like that secrecy didn't entirely go away. Didn't one of the original investigators try to reopen the case much later?
That's right. Lev Ivanov, one of the lead investigators back in '59, gave interviews later in life expressing his belief that something extraordinary, likely related to those glowing spheres, was involved. And then there was another official, a deputy head from the Sverdlovsk Investigative Department, still alive in 2015.
What did he say?
He apparently stated he was planning another trip, a full reinvestigation at the pass over 50 years later. But before he could even leave, someone from Moscow, a deputy prosecutor general, showed up and ordered the whole thing shut down. Again.
Wow, that just adds fuel to the fire, doesn't it? So, after all this, what do we actually think happened? No single theory seems to fit perfectly, does it?
No, it really doesn't. Every theory has holes, things it can't quite explain, which is why it's so enduring. It's very possible, maybe even likely, that it was a combination of factors, a perfect storm, like you said.
Like what?
Maybe infrasound did cause initial panic, maybe making them think an avalanche was coming, especially combined with the fierce winds. Or perhaps there was a loud bang, a military test nearby that triggered that initial flight response.
So they panic, cut their way out.
Yeah, in that shell-shocked state, they flee to the tree line. Maybe they get down there, realize the immediate danger isn't right on top of them anymore. But it's too late. The extreme cold has already set in. Hypothermia starts taking its toll fast. Confusion, poor decisions. Maybe the fall into the ravine happens then. And in the desperate final acts, like sharing clothes, it's a cascade of tragedy.
It really is. The Dyatlov Pass incident, it just remains one of the most compelling, most chilling mysteries of the 20th century. A really stark reminder of nature's power, but also maybe something else, something hidden.
The questions just linger, don't they?
Hmm.
The bizarre details, the sheer horror. It forces you to consider possibilities that are, frankly, terrifying.
Well, we hope this deep dive has maybe shed some light on the known facts and highlighted the many, many questions that still swirl around this truly enduring enigma. Thank you so much for joining us on this pretty chilling exploration. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and definitely keep that curiosity burning. And hey, if you found this story as fascinating and unsettling as we do, please do us a favor. Give this a like, maybe share it with a friend who loves a good mystery, and definitely subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs. We've got more chilling investigations coming your way.